Hey y'all, hi. Here's something I haven't done in a while. I am going to build my own little eyeshadow palette out of my collection of single eyeshadows, which has very recently been decluttered down to a sweet, and yet I feel diverse in just the right way for me, edited collection, all of which fits into this modestly sized magnetic palette. My goal today with my little palette is not to dupe the vibes of any specific eyeshadow palette that's new to the market. I just can't think of one that's like made me want to buy it or that's been inspiring me. What's been going on between eyeshadow and me lately is this. Since I decluttered my palettes, I've been using them more. I only kept 5 eyeshadow palettes and I just feel like every single one of them has been getting a lot of use. They're all really inspiring to me. I've been reveling in the color stories. I've been enjoying just picking a palette and using only it. My palette collection has been in heavy rotation. But as you may remember, if you saw my palette declutter, the color story across all 5 of my remaining eyeshadow palettes, it definitely has a perspective, right? It's a little bit repetitive. You can really see what I like. And I'll show you a picture right now of the insides of all 5 of those palettes. I actually have that picture pulled up on my own phone screen off to the side here. And what I'm going to try to do is to build myself a little eyeshadow palette out of singles that will provide something that none of my 5 eyeshadow palettes provides. I've been storing my singles separately, so I haven't been using them. I haven't used them since before my declutter. And I'm starting to get curious about what might be lurking in here that will take me in a different direction than I've been going with my palette collection. If this happens to be your first time to my channel, and this is the video you clicked on for the very first time, a hearty welcome to you. I'm really glad that you're here. My name is Hannah. I make beauty content, but at the same time, I try not to promote overspending. I know that that can be a problem for a lot of us in the beauty community. I do review some new makeup, but I also make content like this, which is about makeup that I already own. I hope you'll subscribe if you're new. I upload a lot. I rarely upload fewer than 3 videos a week. And now, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. Okay, here is the little eyeshadow collection, the little single eyeshadow collection that I'm left with after having whittled everything down in my declutter series at the end of December. And it's funny, this is my first time building a palette from this really tiny collection. I'm used to having 3 or 4 big unwieldy palettes and eyeshadows scattered all over the place. It's a different experience because, you know, there are some eyeshadow palettes on the market that are this size. Like, to some people, this is an eyeshadow palette and I don't need to do any further whittling. But I want to do further whittling. I want to make a more condensed, like an edited directional color story that feels super fresh to me right now, given what I've been doing. I feel like the greens and blues are jumping out at me. You know what it is? It's not just greens and blues. It's like this whole chartreusey gold area. I have a lot of this kind of thing in this little palette, and I don't really have any of that kind of thing in my palettes, my eyeshadow palettes. There's one really dark, blended, soft metallic green in the Pat McGrath Midnight Sun palette, but the golds in my palettes tend to lean like light bronzy gold. So that's something to think about. There is a bright sort of periwinkle blue like this in the Gucci palette, but nothing like this. This shadow is really jumping out to me. It's telling me, like, if you pick me, I'm going to rock your world, you know? I'm not totally sure that that's what I want, but there are also other ways to access blue in these singles. I also feel, funnily enough, even though there are some nice bronzes in my palettes, I have kind of been missing those like really creamy, satisfying, smeary, almost plummy, icky, sticky, not warm-toned bronzes. A lot of my palettes have some bronzes in them, but they tend to just lean a tiny bit more warm than I would like them to. So maybe pulling some of those. It might end up being, weirdly, a little bit of a basic looking palette, but just fresh to me right now. Also, the black in this palette is a blacker black than any of the blacks in any of my palettes. I could see myself picking that. I'm going to go through and sort of cull some shadows from here that fit the descriptions that I just outlined, maybe a couple others if I have a whim or two. We'll see what I end up with, and then I'll edit from there. Wow, I feel like I just glanced over. I've been looking at this and just picking things and not really looking. But I just glanced over at what I've picked and I feel like it's really interesting, just really different for me. The group of colors here, the way that they're working together is really different for me. It's like that blue and yellow. It kind of reminds me of color blocked modern art or like, I don't know, like a rug or wallpaper in like a kid's playroom. There are plenty of like the grounding brownie bronzes, but there's something about like the blues and yellows together that it's accomplishing exactly what I'm trying to accomplish. It's just super fresh for me, right? Like this is not anything that I can get from the palettes that I have upstairs in my vanity, and it's not what I've been applying to my eyes lately. So I think that this is too many to fit in here. Let's go through and sort of talk it out. These three are the three shades that I saved from the gold palette when I decluttered it. And I kind of like the idea of having all three of them in a little palette and having like a little, it's like my personal mini gold kind of. I feel especially fond of this center shade. When I was deciding what to keep from the gold palette, I remembered how distinctively it sort of lights up a look to have this greeny gold all over the center of the lid. And it reminds me of the gold palette era. It pushes me a little bit in that green direction, which is no longer really my comfort zone. But because of that, again, there's none of it in any of the palettes that I have, the like chartreusey gold. Sort of the same with the mustard. This is a little more my comfort zone. And I think the three of them can work together, or I'll use this just on its own all over the lids. I think I might want to ground the palette in this gold palette edit. And given how delightfully they are working together, like how they're looking together, it's hard not to also include these two blues from Lethal. I don't know if I was necessarily thinking of including both of them. I was sort of thinking like one of them. I kind of picked this one in case I decided not to keep this one in. But there's something about the two of them, along with these chartreusey greens, that is giving me the kick that I was describing, like when I looked over and saw everything that was there. But is it practical? Like, I don't know if I could see myself mixing these colors, like making a yellow and a blue look. And that's the thing. Even though it's visually pleasing in an artistic way, I'm building something that's going to be a tool, not a piece of art that I'm going to put on the wall. And even though it gives me a kick to see them together, I really don't think I will use like mustard and blue. Like I really don't think that I will. I could see myself using this more. This is Stargaze from Lethal, just because it's like an outer corner deepening shade, a layering shade. I could see it going with these and being a little muddy, but in like a grungy way that I love, but not so Surge over here, which is just like completely in control. Even though I was so delighted by the overall visual, I'm going to proceed without Surge and see where that gets me, just for practical reasons. I could see myself including it in this mini palette and then like literally never using it for the entire month or however long I keep this together. Funnily enough, I feel like the deep black was also part of what was making me vibe with the way everything looked together. It provides like a grounding element and also weirdly sort of an avant-garde element with everything, sort of this seriousness. I don't know. And you know what? This is Cliona Glimmer and it flashes blue. It's notoriously difficult to capture all of the nuance of these Cliona shades under the studio lights, but you can see how invisible it goes at certain directions. I love that. And then I don't know if you're seeing like the ultraviolet blue flip that I'm seeing. I mean, I always do this, but I've been using a lot of wet look shadows all over the lid to finish a look lately. So I was looking in my singles for one that I could do that with, but that's different. I have wet look shadows that flash blue or purple, but they tend to have more of a grungy base, like that red base in Space Cowboy or that like really rich purple red mixture in Moonlit Seduction. This is different because it's so sheer, but the point that I was trying to make is that the flip that I'll be getting from it maybe evokes some of what I've left behind by taking Surge off the table. I definitely want to include that one. I also think that Cliona Weathered right here is going to help make sure that this little palette is really different from my existing palettes. It's like the mustard, the greeny gold, and the chartreuse that's really going to do that because that's like a color group that I love, again, but that I don't really have at my fingertips right now. And I think also some of these plummy browns, Jaclyn Hill 24/7, I've been thinking about it a lot since the Lisa Eldridge review where I compared it to some of those Lisa Eldridge eyeshadows, thinking originally that there might be a dupe for this in the Lisa Eldridge group and then realizing that there wasn't. It's an icon and it's just, I haven't really been using it. You know, I've just decided to keep it. It seems like it's still going strong and I just haven't really been using it. I wonder how I'm actually doing for like what will fit in here. Or maybe I just want to keep it to a 9 pan. Maybe that's what I'm doing. Maybe I'm not cramming in everything that will fit. I'm just making a 9 pan. If I am, what else am I going to keep? This is an old Adept shade that I find really useful because it's like a taupey, plummy, in between, easy all over the lid shade for me. But I feel like these sort of serve the same purpose. And in fact, in this moment, I'm sort of preferring this one. And with that, which is a cool toned presence, I'm actually starting to get back some of that like little kids building blocks color, like the primary colors quality that I was so delighted by originally. I actually like that trade-off. I like taking out this slightly warmer bronze. So options are Urban Decay Lounge, a blue-brown pigment, which I just picked on a lark because I don't have any blue-brown pigment in my palettes. You know, it would be different. Sydney Grace Defiance, which is like a really mucky, dark, grungy olive. I feel like it doesn't vibe quite as well as Lounge did. And then, of course, I could include Surge. I feel like it's taking all the attention. I think it's going to be Urban Decay Lounge. I feel like what we have here, it's like a grungy blue and yellow palette. Like it's a blue and yellow palette, which doesn't sound like something that I would like, but is definitely fitting the brief. Like that is a departure from what I have. I don't really have blue in the palettes that I kept in my declutter, and I don't really have yellow in them either. So those are two color categories that I just haven't been using, haven't been considering because they haven't been at my fingertips. But like a straight, strong middle of the road blue doesn't appeal to me, and neither does a straight, strong middle of the road yellow. If I'm going to be using blue and yellow, I'm using these grungy mixed versions of them, like chartreusey gold, mustard, like a blackened, reflective blackberry, blueberry color. This as a blue, just like a blue-brown pigment, and then a couple of murky neutrals to balance it out. A wet look, shiny glitter shade that flashes a little bit blue, and a really dark black. Yeah, this is the blue and yellow palette that works for me. So I'm gonna put it in here and maybe do a little reorganizing. We'll see. Oh wait, it might not fit. Oh my gosh. It's not even gonna come close to fitting. And no. Okay, I'm chickening out. I really got attached to my 9 pan, so I'm gonna switch to a bigger palette rather than editing it down further. I really went from like not knowing what I was gonna make to being obsessed with what I made and unwilling to compromise. There. Isn't it kind of like a little eyeshadow Montreal? But grungy, like grungy Montreal. Are you seeing it? I'm kind of seeing it. Oh my gosh, and I'm so excited about this. It really achieved what I wanted it to achieve. It's made me feel a thrill about some colors I haven't been using in a long time. But of course, the key here is getting that thrill without having had to go out and buy something. But the thing is, I feel the way that I feel sometimes when I'm in a store and I see something that feels fresh to me, like a new release where I'm like, whoa, I don't have those colors. Like I've been using those colors. I wonder what it'd be like to dig into a grungy blackberry, blueberry shade just for something novel, like just to shake things up a little bit. There's really a lot of power in putting portions of your makeup collection away for a little while and then getting them back out. It makes everything old feel new again. I wonder if I'm trying to see if you can get a sense of the shift on that multi-chrome by looking in the mirror. You kind of can there. The fuzzy reflection in the mirror is showing like bright yellow, almost like a murky kind of marigold. You can really see the green in the actual pan right there. You can also see the flip on Urban Decay Lounge. It's like brown in the pan and teal blue in the reflect. You can kind of see the flip on that blue-black lethal shade as well. Yeah, we've got a lot of dynamic colors here in this palette, which is exciting. And there we've got the reflect and focus. Doesn't that look juicy? I can't wait to play with this. Okay, that is it. Thank you so much for watching this video. It was a bit of an adventure because this is my first time playing with my edited collection of singles. I feel like the video will end up being a little bit on the short side, but that was also because I was decisive. I gotta figure out what I wanted right away. I hope it was no less entertaining. I appreciate you so much for spending this time with me, and I really hope that you're remembering to take extra good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.